It was a quiet afternoon in suburban Chicago. The wind rustled the maple leaves outside the Reynolds home, and inside, a sense of unease had settled like thick fog. Mark sat at the kitchen window, his hands wrapped around a now-cold mug of coffee. But his eyes weren't on the coffee. They were locked on the street. The school bus should have arrived 10 minutes ago. And then, finally, it did. The bright yellow bus hissed as it halted. Mark stood up instantly. His heart did the thing it always did, clenched. The door of the bus creaked open and down came a small figure with tired steps. His daughter. 7-year-old Emily. She had her usual blue backpack slung over her shoulder. Her uniform, a white shirt and navy skirt, looked slightly disheveled, and her pigtails drooped like wilting flowers. But it was her face that made Mark's heart sink. Another bruise. Faint, just below her cheekbone. He forced a smile as she walked up the steps. "Hey there, Em. How was school?" She hesitated for a fraction of a second. "It was okay." Mark knelt to meet her eyes. "What happened to your face?" Her hand went to her cheek instinctively. "Oh. I bumped into the lockers. By accident." The same excuse. Just like last week. And the week before. That night, as Emily sat curled up on the couch, quietly coloring with her crayons, Mark watched her closely. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. Not just the bruises. Not just the silence. Her spark was gone. The bubbly, curious girl who once narrated bedtime stories to her stuffed animals now spoke only when spoken to. She flinched at loud sounds. She hated being left alone. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, Mark would hear her crying, muffled sobs through her bedroom door. He'd asked. Gently. So had Lily, his wife. But Emily never said anything beyond, "I'm okay, really." But she wasn't. The next morning, Mark pulled out an old voice recorder from a storage drawer. He had used it in his journalism days, back when he believed stories could change lives. Maybe now, it could save one. He tested it. Still worked. As Lily braided Emily's hair and tucked her lunch into her backpack, Mark quietly slipped the recorder into a side compartment of the bag. He turned it on and zipped it up. "Have a good day, sweetheart," he said as Emily climbed into the car. "You too, Daddy," she said, softly. That entire day, Mark couldn't work. Couldn't eat. He kept checking the time, glancing at the door, ears tuned for the sound of the bus. At 3:20 p.m., it pulled up. Emily came down, even quieter than usual. She walked past him, straight to her room. Mark waited for the door to click shut. Then he grabbed the backpack and yanked out the recorder. His hands trembled as he plugged it into his laptop and hit play. Static. Then voices. Kids laughing. A teacher calling roll. Then. A girl's voice. Mocking. Cold. Well, here she is. Princess of the weirdos. Another girl chimed in. I bet she still wets the bed. Laughter. Then, a sound. Something hard. A shove. A body hitting the lockers. Emily's voice. Quiet. Please stop. A slap. Audible. Another voice, don't touch her face, her dad checks. Do her ribs. Mark froze. Then another thud. Giggling. Emily's breathing, short. Panicked. He ripped off the headphones, bile rising in his throat. His chest burned. His vision blurred. Lily, he called. His wife rushed in. What is it? He didn't speak. Just handed her the headphones and walked away before he broke down. She listened. And cried. That night, they didn't sleep. At 8 a.m. sharp the next day, they marched into the school with the recording in hand. The principal, Mrs. Cartwright, looked confused, until she pressed play. Her face paled. She sat back in silence. This is Emily, she said, barely above a whisper. Yes, Mark said, every word shaking with fury. And these are your students. They are from the honors class. Their parents are, she stopped herself. We had no idea this was happening. Well, now you do. And if you don't act, we will. What followed was chaos. 3 girls were identified as the bullies. The school suspended them. But their parents pushed back, threatened lawsuits. Claimed the recording was fabricated. But it was real. Emily, meanwhile, refused to go to school. I don't want to see them, she whispered. I don't want to feel that scared again. Mark and Lily let her stay home. They brought in a counselor. Helped her draw, write, talk. She began to open up, piece by fragile piece. I didn't tell you, she said one night, because I thought if I told, it would get worse. That they'd hurt me more. Mark wrapped his arms around her. You never have to be afraid of the truth again. You're not alone, Emily. A week passed. Then 2. News spread. Parents came forward. One after another. Other students had stories of silent suffering. The school was forced to act. An internal investigation began. Bullying policies were rewritten. Teachers were retrained. Accountability was demanded. Emily wasn't the only victim. But she was the first to speak, even without knowing it. She returned to school 3 weeks later. Nervous. Clutching her father's hand like a lifeline. Students stared. Whispers followed. But something had shifted. One girl, MIA, shy and quiet, sat next to her at lunch and said, I'm glad you're back. Emily blinked. You were really brave, MIA added. And for the first time in weeks, Emily smiled. Later that month, the school invited Emily to speak at an anti-bullying assembly. She stood on stage, small and nervous. But her voice, though quiet, cut through the silence. I didn't think anyone would believe me, she said. But someone did. My parents listened. And because of that, I'm not afraid anymore. The entire auditorium rose in a standing ovation. Just before we move to the closing of this story, I want to ask you, watching right now, if Emily's story touched you, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel Heartline Stories, where real voices and real stories are told, with heart. Back to Emily. Years passed. She healed. She laughed again. She played piano. She excelled in school. Eventually, she decided she wanted to help others, kids like her. She studied psychology. Became a school counselor. In her office sits a framed photo of her as a child, pigtails, backpack, soft smile. And next to it? That same recorder. Not as a reminder of pain, but of strength. And Mark? He became an advocate, speaking at schools, helping other parents recognize the signs, telling them, don't wait for bruises. Listen to the silence. It often screams the loudest. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing a parent can do is believe their child. And sometimes, the unthinkable is what finally saves them.